Hi, everybody. I'm Steve Green, and I have a story to share with you, and I think it's really going to tear at your heartstrings. It seems that New York educators are suffering those blue state blues, and you know what has them so down in the dumps? Would you believe it's their own Common Core curriculum? Yeah, this is a tale of heartbreak and woe told by none other than the great lady herself, the New York Times. It's so sad. I'm weeping tears of pure joy. Look, if you look closely, you can see one right there. No? Okay. Let's bring on Scott Ott and Bill Whittle, and maybe you can join us as we do the Schadenfreude two-step. Gents, I want to put some quotes on the screen from this New York Times story. The first comes from Carol Burris. She's an acclaimed high school principal on Long Island, calls the Common Core a disaster. We see kids, she said, they don't want to go to school anymore. Actually, you know what? Let's give Common Core a pass on that one. I've got an 8-year-old who tells me the exact same thing every morning. So let's bring up the next quote. It says, the statewide teachers union withdrew its support for the standards last month until major course corrections took place. Now, Scott, just like me, you have kids in public schools. Have you ever seen a teachers union take sides against a Washington initiative? Ever?
Well, yeah, I think some unions have. In fact, there's an excellent precedent for this where unions have taken the opposite side from what was happening in Washington, D.C., and that was with the Affordable Care Act. Once it started to be implemented, all the unions were concerned about what it was going to do to their members. And so I think it would be terrific if the unions would do here the same thing the unions did in the case of Obamacare, and that is simply ask the government to exempt them from Common Core. And so the teachers union just says, well, you can apply it to everybody else in the school system, but just not the teachers. I think we'll take care of this.
Common Core, Obamacare, pissing off the unions. It's almost as if the progressive left is just no darn good at governing. You know what? You should know that this isn't just some local teachers at a couple of schools making a little noise. The complaints are so loud and so widespread that even Democratic Governor Cuomo has called the state's execution of the standards flawed and appointed a panel to recommend changes. I know it's just a panel. I know maybe this isn't going to go forward anywhere with any real change. But Bill, isn't it nice to find a topic where conservatives and liberals can come together and just kick the crap out of an Obama initiative?
Well, first of all, we don't know that the course corrections and the changes that they want to make are not to make it worse. Right? I mean, we don't know that. When they say, well, we need a major course correction, they could have just made it a lot more socialist, a lot more pro-union, a lot more all of this stuff. But look, I've been dealing a bit with Common Core lately, and the thing about Common Core is it is like Obamacare for education. It is a single point of failure, small group of elitists in Washington telling the entire country that you will all do things this one way, and you don't have any choice, and you don't have any other place to go. And as I've said before with the Obamacare failure of the website, it's not that the website was a catastrophe in terms of its technical operation, although that seemed to be inevitable now. The real story behind the Obamacare website was that it was procured through means of graft and cronyism and given to incompetent contractors who were paid 30, 40, 50 times what it was worth. And this is how government functions. And this is what they did to healthcare. And it's what they want to do to education, Steve. That's why Common Core is so dangerous. It is basically, once again, single point of failure, lack of individuality, lack of competition, all of the things that make government awful are now being applied to the educational system in the way that they were applied catastrophically to the healthcare system. And as you said, it's not like the example of Obamacare is 400 years old. Every single union, every single political organization that pushed that bill down the throats of the American people immediately used their clout to exempt themselves from the consequences of the bill. What does that tell you? We're seeing the exact same thing with Common Core. It's not any good. It's terrible, and it needs to go. And we need to stop doing this, by the way, this kind of thing.
Well, I think it's obvious that Bill Whittle hates young people. All right, folks, so the real kicker to the story comes from Michael That's right, from Michael Petrilli. He's the executive vice president at a left-leaning education policy group, and he's a big advocate of Common Core. And the New York Times describes him as taken aback by all this. In his own words, he says the anti-Common Core reaction in New York is bizarre. He said, New York is in some interesting company, right up with the reddest of the red states, and you worry that there will be bleed over from New York to the other states. Imagine that. New York right up there with the reddest of the red states, folks. I've said it before, and I'll say it again. There's no quicker way to discredit progressivism than to put it into practice. But dear Lord, the cleanup. Hey, you know what, New York? When you're done with that, you want to hand me that mop? Thanks.
Yeah.
For Bill Whittle and Scott Ott, I'm Steve Green.